ברוך מרחם על הארץ, ברוך הוא, ברוך מרחם על הבריות, ברוך שמו, ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעב, ברוך הוא, ברוך מביא אפלה ומביא אורה, ברוך שמו, ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח, ברוך הוא, ברוך פודה ומציל, ברוך הוא וברוך שמו.
So it is the lead up to the High Holy Days, and it is traditional to read Psalm 27 at this time of year. And Cantor Mike Sussman is going to do several verses from the Psalm. And I hope you can all see it on the screen, yes?
Yes.
Mike, please go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just before we, Shabbat Shalom, before we go into verse 4, just a translation from Rabbi Ora Weiss from the Truah Listserv. Verse 4 of Psalm 27, I ask of God oneness, wholeness. I seek to meditate and connect with the beautiful natural world, God's house, all of the days of my life. I also seek to be able to connect more directly with a higher aspect of God. Achad shalti meit Adonai otavakesh. Achad shalti meit Adonai otavakesh. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yemei chayai. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם, בנועם אדוני, ולבקר בהיכלו. And Rabbi Weiss's translation of the last two verses, if I did not trust that I would experience the goodness of the divine in this living land, wait for God, be strong and strengthen your heart, and wait for God. Lulei hemanti ledot betuv Adonai be'eretz chayim, kaveh el Adonai, chazak ve'yametz libecha, v'kaveh el Adonai.
That was lovely. Thank you. That was wonderful. Paula, do you want to go back to, where are we, Debaruchu?
No, we are on.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We are going to do Psalm 92 on page 209. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, על העשור ועל הנבל, על היגיון וכינור, על העשור ועל הנבל, על היגיון וכינור. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. And then we will conclude the Psalms on page 231 with Psalm 150. כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללואל בקודשו, הללו ברכיהו זו, הללו בגבורותיו, הללו קרוב גודלו, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללו בתק השופר, הללו בנבל וכינור, הללו בתוף ומחול, הללו במינים ועוגב, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, הללו בצלצלי שמה, הללו בצלצלי תורה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה.
Thank you. If we can turn to page 805 in the back of the prayer book. We are in Elul. Rosh Hashanah is creeping up on us. It's overtaken Labor Day. Meditations for Elul. God, help me through the days of Elul to prepare myself for the new year with its promise of new life for my body and my soul. Help me face questions I wish to avoid. Help me accept truths that do not comfort. I wish to journey to the light, but the path to it is hidden by all the promises I never kept, by the goodness I deserted. May the words from the past show me the way of return. I begin the road of repentance. Meet me, God, as I journey on it. And Paula, now the Baruch, right? Thank you.
And that's on page 247.
Please rise.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorech choshech, ose shalom, uvorech hakol. Eladon, page 253. Eladon kol hamaasim baruch umvorach befi chol neshama godlo vetuvo male olam da'at u'tfuna sovevim oto hamidgae al chayot hakodesh v'nedar v'chavod al hamerchava zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim לפני כבודו, טובים מאוד שבא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה, נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומבקיעים נוגה, נעזיבם בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים בהם הרצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמות עליו ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והתקין צורת הלבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבאם תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש. And we move to page 269. המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית כאמור לא שעורים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Back to you, Matt.
Mike, go ahead. Thank
Okay. Okay. So shifting now to page 275. You can all hear me? Okay. Page 275 for the Havienu, which is part of the prayer for God's love leading up to the Shema. V'havienu l'shalom me'ad ba'kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiut le'aretzenu ki el ha'poel Yeshuotat v'keravtanu l'shimcha gadol selam be'emet lehodot lach uliachdech be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. The Shema 277. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuta Leolam Laed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We'll continue silently through the end of the Shema on any of the readings between 278 and 285. למען ירבו ימיכם ובניכם על ההר מה ששמר עליי לבותם תתכם כמה שמעל הארץ ציצית הרגלים ציצית אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 291 as we prepare for the Amidah. 291. Tehilot le'el elyon Baruch היא מבורכת משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויעמדו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדון בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף שיר חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. We rise if we're able. Tzur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Uvdechin Umecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, Go'aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Mike, thank you. I want to interrupt for just a second here. As some of you know, during the lockdown, Adat Shalom began a daily, a weekday minyan. We don't do it every day. We do it on Mondays and Thursdays. And I attend often, and there's things in the daily Reconstructionist prayer book that I find very interesting that I wanted to share because most of us are only here on Shabbat. There is a abbreviated Amidah in the prayer book, and I'm going to read this in English just because I like it, and I thought it would be of some interest to everybody. Open my eye that it may look upon the goodness of your plan and turn my knowledge into knowledge of your ways, my will into your will. May all that I do be like an offering received into your presence, and may you forgive me all I have done wrong. Enable me to see your light in all whom I encounter, and please heal the pain within my heart. For you are the one who listens to the prayer of all who speak. Blessed are you, eternal one, who hears all prayer. And that takes the place of most of the blessings in the weekday Amidah. But today is Shabbat, so Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm assuming we're doing a Hecha Kedusha. Is that our minhag? Yes. Okay. A thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're on page 295. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagin Tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elokei Avraham Elokei Sarah Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Rivka Elokei Yaakov Elokei Rachel v'Elokei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora Elah Eliona Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot U'Mevia Geula Livnei V'neihem L'ma'an Shmo B'Yahava Malka Ozeret Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoken Ve'ezrat Sarah 299 Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Kol Chai Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Rofe Cholim Umatir Asurim ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות כל חי ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה כל חי 303 נקדש את שמך את שמך בעולם נקדש את שמך את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודה אז בקול רעש גדול אז בקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק אדיר וחזק אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנשאים לעומת שרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו 305 ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך, עיני מתי תמלוך, תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד, תשכון, תתגדל, תתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. עינינו תראנה, תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל המלכה גדולה וקדוש אתה, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אתה אדוני,
We continue silently or with words in the prayer book, or with our own hearts.
Please continue at your own pace in this penitential season as we come closer to the divine source. The third line from the bottom on 323. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, the divine, my rock and my redeemer. Lefanecha Adonai Tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer, O Lord, my rock and redeemer.
Thank you, Michael. Would you lead us in the Kaddish Tid Kabbalah, and then Rabbi George, will you take us into the Torah service?
Sure. You have the page for that?
381.
Okay. Yitkara v'yitkara shmei Rabba ve'alamad v'rachkirutei v'nich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon v'chayechon b'et Yisrael b'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'la'lemei alamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmech dekursham ha'brichu le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata v'miran be'alema v'imru amen. Titkabal tzlotohon uvautohon dechol Yisrael kodam vohon v'shmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shalom arba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osa shalom bimromecha yita'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshevei tevel v'yimru amen.
George? Thank you, Mike.
Turn now to page 383. Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ben kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor vador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitem Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. It's customary to rise at this point. Av harachamim Eitiva mitzoncha et Zion tibne chomot Yerushalayim ki becha levad batachnu melech el ram benisa Adon olamim. Page 385. ויהי בנשוא אהרון, ויאמר משה, קומה אדוני, ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. The bottom of page 387. Anarachitz velishmei kadisha, kadisha yakira, anamach tushmechan, yeheravakadamach, detiftach libi beorata, ותשלים משלין דליבי, וליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטוב ולחיים ולשלום. Amen.
Page 393.
Yep. Together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadolul Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo Yachdav.
Thank you. And we will now all imagine the Torah proceeding around the sanctuary. I'd like to give just a few words introducing the reading today. It begins with what to do with the beautiful woman whom you capture in war, followed by a discussion of what to do with a wayward, drunken, gluttonous son. The answer is stone him to death. In our read, doesn't say what to do with daughters. In our reading, there is some nitty-gritty details of life, including life before sanitary plumbing. Of the 613 commandments, Maimonides counts 72 in this parsha, including how to treat the Ammonites and the Moabites with disdain, and the Egyptians with sympathy. The rabbis in their wisdom have scheduled this reading for the week when almost everybody is at the beach and not in shul. I wanted to call our attention briefly to something a bit loftier. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 16, which we won't quite reach this morning, but it contains one of the nobler lines, but there's some hidden meaning in it. You shall not turn over to his master a slave who seeks refuge with you from his master. He shall live with you in any place he may choose, among the settlements in your midst, wherever he pleases. You must not ill-treat him. In other words, don't return a runaway slave. If you go a bit deeper, it gets a little less noble. The master is presumed to be Canaanite, not Israelite. This doesn't apply to a slave that escapes from an Israelite master. But it also becomes a little more relevant for our time. it's a precursor to give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. If the slave is seeking refuge with you, that means the slave has reached the land of Israel and has acknowledged Israel's God. And that makes it a sin to send a slave back across the border over which he fled. Certainly a relevant issue at the moment. Thank you. And George, I'm sorry, Ken, please go ahead. Ken, you with us? You were with us.
I am with you.
Wonderful. Okay. You know, Ken, I'll tell you, nothing inspires prayer like trying to run a Zoom meeting like this and hoping everything goes right.
Absolutely. Okay. So we will continue with the reading of the Torah on page 395 in the Siddur. ויעזור ויגן וישלח כל החסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל המגוד אלוהינו שתנו כבוד לתורה. Ya'amdu, Mimi and Jim Blasiak, Miriam Bat Yaakov, Aryeh V'Gittel, Yitzhak Ben Avraham Sarah La'aliyah Rishona, Baruch Shenatan Torah La'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato, V'atem Adlekim Adonai Lechem, Chaim Kulchem Hayom. So the first reading will be Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 8 through 12. If you have the old Plowed in front of you, it'll be on page 1496. If you have the new Plowed, it'll be on page 1329. The reader will be Kayla Niles.
And Mimi,
Yes,
you should be able to unmute yourself.
I did. We did. Yes.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Lo tita'ev Adonai ki achicha hu. Lo tita'ev Mitzri ki ger hayita b'artso banim. Asher yivaldu lahem dor shlishi. Yavo lahem b'kal Adonai. Say machane al oivecha v'nishmarta mikol davara ki yedecha ish asher lo yetahor mikre laila v'yatsa el michutz lamachane lo yavo el telcha machane v'haya lifnot erev yirchatz b'mayim Uchavo Hashemesh Yavo El Toch HaMachaneh.
Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah li'amo Yisrael.
Thank you. Yeshkach. Kayla, do you want to just say why? I have a note here about your reading today for a particular occasion.
My mother, Beatrice Weiss Verninger, was born on October 21st, 1908. And we always celebrated her birthday by coming home from camp and being together as a family. And so it's I don't forget about it. She's been gone since 1982. But we still remember her with a lot of love.
For the second Aliyah, Ta'amod, Sarah Flores Shannon, Sarah Livia Bat Avraham Sarah Aliyah Hashniya.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Yatiyeh lecha michutz hamachaneh, vayatzata shama chutz, vayateh tiyeh lecha al zeinecha, vahaya b'shivtecha chutz, v'chafarta ba, ושבת וכיסית את צאתך, כי אדוני אלוהיך מתהלך בקרב מחניך, להצילך ולתת אויביך לפניך, והיה מחניך קדוש, ולא יראה בך ירבת דבר, ושב מאחריך.
Baruch atah Adonai hamlemed Torah lamo Israel.
Amen.
Amen.
Ken, I'm going to jump in here just for a second. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Want to say a word of blessing for you, Sarah, as you come to the Torah this morning, just I think days before you get on a plane to head to Dublin, Ireland, to begin your graduate studies. And it has been such a joy to have you in our community during the time that you've lived here. And we hope to have you back when you're finished with Dublin. And know that there's always a seat for you here among us. Do you want to say anything about what you're going to be studying?
Sure. So it'll be a 1-year program in comparative social change. So kind of a sociology degree. And, you know, obviously, I think the past year has shown us that studying social movements is can be really helpful as we look to the future. So
Hear, hear. We need your leadership. Our world does. I would like to just say a blessing in your honor, Sarah. Like pretend like we're holding hands. The words here are on page 684 in the Siddur, if anybody wants to follow them. Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov, ve'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, veLeah, calling on the blessing bestowed on all our ancestors. May that same blessing pour forth upon Sarah Flores Shannon, Sarah Livia bat Avraham Besara, she'alta lichvod hamakom, lichvod haTorah, lichvod haShabbat, who has risen before all our community in honor of this virtual place, this Torah, in honor of Shabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yichayea v'yishmerea mikol tzara v'tzuka u'mikol nega u'machala. May the Holy One of Blessing give her life and protect her from every trouble and harm and sickness. Ve'yishlach beracha ve'hatzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadeha. May there be blessing and success, and will add good health and peace of mind for all the works of your hands, all the works of your heart, all the works of your mind and body. V'yivarchea im kol Yisrael achecha v'achyoteha. May you be blessed, Sarah, with all Israel, your brothers and sisters. And we say amen.
Amen.
Nisiat Tova, a good trip, a good journey, a safe journey, and a good return.
Be'emet.
Before Ken, you continue, I just wanted to turn to Jim and Mimi. And I assume you had this aliyah this morning for a special reason, but I don't know what it is. Or if it's just for an aliyah, that's good too.
Our 44th wedding anniversary.
Mazal Tov.
You had to give the number?
Wish you all good things this anniversary and all the many, many, many that are yet to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mazal Tov. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you. George, will you lead us in the Misha Berach? George, unmute, please. The curse of Zoom, unmute.
I'm unmuted at the moment, but
Good, gotcha.
I don't know where we are at the moment for the blessing you're referring to.
The Misha Berach B'cholim.
If you would like to extend the blessing To those who are sick, please rise and join with me. Mi sheberach Avoteinu Mikor habracha Limotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. May we pause for a moment. We have followed the custom of putting the names of those in whose hopes we are especially praying into the chat box, and I invite you to do this as we sing the next verse of this wonderful new addition to our liturgy by Debbie Friedman. Mi sheberach limotenu Mikor habracha Lavotenu. May those bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, George. And the last aliyah is Mim Eisenstein, who will be chanting the Haftarah.
So
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Amen. זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים. Sorry, I'm going to back up a second. So because we are moving in the Sidur or in the Chumash, we are at Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 17. If you have the older version of the plot, we're on page 1507. If you're in the newer one, this is page 1335. This is one of the mentions that we should remember what Amalek did, and we should remember to wipe them out. Some people have the tradition of reading these verses quietly to help this wiping out. I'm just going to read it more or less normally, and if you would like it to be quieter, you can adjust your speakers on your computer. Amen. זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים אשר קרך בדרך ויזנה בך כל הנחשלים אחריך ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים והיה והניח אדוני אלוהיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים לא תשכח.
Baruch atah Adonai hamalamed Torah le'amo Yisrael.
Thank you. I'm going to say a few words about the Haftarah. Do we want to do the Hatzi Kaddish before that? Ken,
Would you like?
please.
יקדש ויקדש שמי רבה, יעמד דרכי ומלך מלכותי, וחי יכון וימי חלום חיי לכל בית ישראל, בהגלה בזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. Amen. Yehi shmeru Rabba mivorach le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, yitpar, v'yitramah, v'yitadar, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו לאלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירה בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
Amen.
So we're going to have a devar this morning on the Haftarah, which has, in the season of Zoom, has gotten short shrift. Why do we chant the Haftarah? The short answer is we're not sure. There isn't an explanation in the ancient Jewish literature, although the Mishnah recognizes it as an integral part of the service. There's a widespread theory that it began when the Romans banned public reading of the Torah, but as Rabbi Fred points out, it's unlikely that the Romans could enforce it. They couldn't tell the difference. And in general, many of the selections in the Haftarot are just as subversive from the Roman point of view as the Torah readings. They identify Israel as the children of God, as God's chosen people, as the rightful owners of the territory, and as the once and future victors in conflicts with outsiders. There really isn't any evidence the Romans banned reading of the Torah but allowed the Haftarah. There isn't any evidence they banned any readings, although they sometimes banned Jews. Tiberius kicked the Jews out of the city of Rome itself, and after the destruction of the Second Temple, Jews were banned for Jerusalem. The Romans were not concerned about other people's theology, as long as you paid your taxes and didn't rebel. That's how you run a successful, multicultural, multi-ethnic empire. America, take note. Rome prospered because it didn't use government to force religion on people, at least not until all the emperors became Christians. Back to the Haftarah, the Jews may have begun reading from the prophets to distinguish ourselves from the Samaritans, who accepted the Torah but said that Moses was the last prophet. There's an ancient source that appears to confirm that the Haftarot were read. It says in the Gospel of Luke that Jesus went home to Nazareth, went to synagogue, and was handed the scroll of the book of Isaiah and read the first 2 verses of the 61st chapter. Note that the Haftarot are frequently drawn from Isaiah. That's where today's Haftarah comes from. But we don't read the lines that Jesus did at any time of year. We do read the preceding chapter and the end of chapter 61 and the following 2 chapters, but not those lines, possibly because Jesus read them. And there are a variety of verses from the prophets that the Christians use to back up the idea of virgin birth and Messiah. We don't use those in our Haftarah readings either. But those exclusions must have appeared centuries after the birth of Jesus, when Christianity began to gain traction. It also isn't clear why the child being called up for the first time as a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah reads the Haftarah. It's tradition, but who knows why. Rabbi Gunther Plaut, the editor of our Pentateuch, points out that this week's reading uses the metaphor of divorce. God is Israel's bride, God has divorced Israel, but God will take her back. This is not the comparison that most of us would reach for. We define our relationship with God as a personal relationship more than a national or ethnic relationship. Maybe this is particularly strong among Reconstructionists who have rejected the idea that we're the chosen people. If God didn't choose us as a group, then our relationship to God is more as individuals, less as a group, or at least less as this particular group. It's also jarring to our sensibilities. Plaut points out that in part because of the way marriage has changed since the time of Isaiah, the bride is not the servant of the groom, and the groom can't marry and divorce on his own say-so. Texts are a reflection of the time in which they're written. In Isaiah's time, marriage and family were the only basis for a long-term relationship. This was written in an era with no colleagues, no direct reports, no administrative assistants, no interns or fellows, at a time when partnerships and joint ventures were assured by marriages. And that's why kings wanted daughters to cement relationships with allies by marrying them off to neighboring kings or princes. Outdated though the metaphor may be, it does produce some nice language. Though the mountains may depart and the hills be removed, my love shall never depart from you, and my covenant of peace shall not be removed. That's line 10. The same metaphor of Israel as bride of God is in our Siddur, especially in the Machzor, from which we'll begin reading on Labor Day. Our Father, our King. The King part doesn't sound quite apt today either. The Isaiah, or the person who wrote the first portion of this book using that name, was writing from about 740 to 700 years before the Common Era. The first society to use long-term relationships that weren't based on family ties was apparently the one established by Genghis Khan. For a variety of reasons, we don't want to emulate him. But Isaiah certainly wasn't acquainted with the concept because Genghis was almost 2,000 years after Isaiah. The original Hebrew may be portraying God as the groom in a little bit less pompous, more direct language than the Plaut translation we use. In verse 5, Plaut translates, "For your husband is your maker, the one called God, the host of heavens, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel, called the God of all the earth." Robert Alter's translation is a little different. He doesn't use the word husband. He renders it this way: "For he who takes you to bed is your maker, the Lord of armies is his name, and your Redeemer, the Holy One." Alter sees a more earthy text. His footnote says, "The widow again has a husband who provides the desolate one with the gratification of a woman's needs." The parallel term Redeemer is used here less in the theological sense than in a social one. The Redeemer, the Goel, is the man who marries the widow, thus redeeming her from her condition of abandonment. The book of Ruth uses Goel in precisely this sense. Maybe the metaphor isn't so badly chosen. Maybe the national relationship with God ebbs and flows as a marriage might. Maybe Isaiah's text is ancient couples therapy. And we have a God who uses a term describing God's outlook that is more often used in family relationships. God is El Kana, the jealous God. Theologically troubling for moderns, perhaps, but just right for a God that's all in the family. This all raises the larger question of metaphors. If Isaiah were writing today, blogging, tweeting, or whatever, what metaphor would he use? And what metaphors might we most meaningfully employ today? Would our relationship to God be described in national terms or personal? So what is a modern description of our relationship with God, especially a reconstructionist relationship with a God who's not created in human's image? We can read that God wrote the Ten Commandments on Moses' tablet using God's finger, or that the smoke of sacrifices is the sweet smell in God's nostrils. But we don't want to go too far down that path either. Some of the richest metaphors we use, the place, water, rock, fortress, process, depart so far from the anthropomorphic, from the human-like form, that they change the whole notion of what the relationship might look like. Mordechai Kaplan reminds us to embrace pluralism in imagining the unimaginable. He wrote that thinking Jews need only a theology, any views of God that make a difference in our lives, not his naturalistic theology or Isaiah's marital relationships or anyone else's. The criteria he recommends: compelling, revealing, and comforting. Find out what works for you. Hope the exploration of Isaiah's images sheds a little more light. One more thought. Jesus read from Isaiah in a Haftarah about 7 centuries after Isaiah wrote it. In modern America, Christians talk about a personal relationship with God. At least the less worrisome ones do. Some talk about a national relationship with God. Thank you. And Mim, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to add one thing, if I might. The Haftarot of comfort are all from 2nd Isaiah, which was not in the 8th century, but in the 6th. And I don't know if that makes any difference, since the metaphors probably wouldn't have changed.
Thank you. You got me. Thanks.
The other thing I would add is that while archaic from some points of view, this may be the most beautiful language in the entire Bible. And I'm not going to sweat over it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neviyim tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'b'ndiei ha'emet v'tzedek. Rani yakara lo yalada, pitzchi urina b'tzahali lo chala, ki rabim b'nei shomema, b'bnei v'ula amar Adonai, archivi mekomo alecha, ויריות משכנותייך יטו אל תחסוכי, האריכי מיתרייך, יתדותייך חזקי, כי ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, וזרעך גויים ירש, זרעך גויים ירש, בערים נשמות יושיבו. אל תראי כי לא תבושי, ואל תקלמי ולא תחפירי, כי בושת אלומייך תשכחי, וחרפת אלמונותייך לא תזכרי עוד. כי ועולייך עושייך, אדוני צבאות שמו, וגואלך קדוש ישראל, אלוהי כל הארץ יקרא. כי כאישה עזובה, ועצובת רוח קרח אדוני, ועשה נעורים, כי תמאס אמר אלוהיך, ברגע קטון עזבתיך, ורחמים גדולים עקבתיך, בשצף קצף הסתרתי פני רגע ממך, ובחסד עולם רחמתיך, אמר גואלך אדוני, כי מנוח זאת לי, אשר נשבעתי, מעבור מנוח עוד על הארץ, כן נשבעתי, מקצוף עלייך ומגער בך, כי ההרים ימושו, והגבעות תמותנה, וחסדי מאיתך לא ימות, וברית שלומי לא תמות, אמר מרחמך אדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו באמת בצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Thank you, Mim. And as Hannah Weisberger, who is our Gabbai this morning, says, our Zoom Gabbai this morning says, Isaiah is our Shakespeare. Rabbi George, will you lead us in the prayer for Israel? Page 418. Prayer for the USA or prayer for Israel, or both? George, unmute, please.
Thank you. Page 418, let us recite together. Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and on all officials of this country who are occupied in good faith with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws, enable them to understand your principles of justice, so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom might never turn away from our land. Please, wise one, God of the life breath of all flesh, waken your spirit with all inhabitants of our land, and plant among peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love and brotherhood, peace and friendship. Uproot from their hearts all hatred and enmity, all jealousy and vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. Therefore, may it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all the inhabitants of the globe, cause to dwell among all peoples, friendship and freedom, and soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war. And now on page 421, the prayer for the state of Israel. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, barech na et medinat Yisrael, reshit simichat geulatenu, hagein aleha barov chastecha, ufros aleha sukat shlomecha, shlach orcha v'amitcha l'rosheha, l'shofteha, u'lenivchareha, v'takem be'etzat tova milfanecha, למען ילכו בדרך הצדק והחופש והיושר. חזק ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם ישועה וחיים, ונותנה שלום בארץ ושמחת עולם ליושביה. פקדנה לברכה את אחינו בית ישראל בכל ארצות פזוזיהם, תא בליבם אהבה ציון, ומי בהם מכל עמנו יהי אלוהיו עמו ויעל. האצל מרוחך על כל יושבי ארץ קודשנו, והסר מקרבם שנאה ואיבה, קנאה ורשות, ותא בליבם אהבת אחווה שלום בריות, וקיים במהרה, עוד פעם, חזון נביאך, לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, ולא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, ונאמר אמן.
Amen.
Amen.
And George Eitz Chaim, page 441.
41. ובנוחו יאמר, שובה אדוני רבבות אלפי ישראל, כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו, עץ חיים היא, למה חזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר, דרכיך דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Thank you. We'll turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, page 451. I am not aware of any losses this week. If I've missed something, please put it in the chat box. Upcoming yard sites, David Lenneman, father of Helen Lenneman. I think Helen is in London, I'm not sure. Frances Gershon, stepmother of Sharon Gershon. Annette Friedman, mother-in-law of Aaron Klapow. Eleanor Brody, mother of Steve Brody, Ellie Chayette, father of Jeffrey Chayette, Sarah Pollock, mother of Carol Rose, Claire Dratch, mother of Gail Dratch, Lawrence Mazer, father of Marshall Mazer, Edward Williams, father of Claire Williams, Helen Segal, mother of Harold Segal, Arlene Stone, mother of Deborah Stone, Henry Koretz, father of Melissa Goman, Bernard Manikin, uncle of Harriet Sugarman, and Samuel Sherwin, father of Wendy Swire. Mourners, please rise. We are on page 451. If somebody would like to unmute and read the responsive part, Yit Kadal v'Yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah,
Amen.
Yalma Tibra Kurte v'Yamlich Malchte, v'Chaye Hon of Yomechon, u'v'Chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'Zman Kori v'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach v'Olam Ulamei Amaya. Yit Barach v'Yishtabach v'Yit Ba'ar v'Yit Raman v'Yit Naseh v'Yit Chadar v'Yit Aleh v'Yit Halal Shemedri Kodisha Brichu Leila Min Kol Birchata v'Shirata Tushbechata v'Nehamata Damiran Bialma v'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya v'Chayim Aleinu v'Al Kol Yisrael v'Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Ose Shalom b'Nurmav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'Al Kol Yisrael v'Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel v'Yimru Amen. And Paula, would you lead us in Aleinu, page 445? Please rise as you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו הוא אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ ועל הארץ, מתחת אין עוד. כן, נקבל לך, אדוני. כי המלכות שלך יהיו לעול מעט, תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה
אדוני המלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
Amen. I would like to thank all the people who put this together, who worked so hard on it. Paula and Mike, the Torah readers, Hannah Weisberger, who's pushing all the appropriate buttons at the appropriate times, Rabbi George, and I have committed the unpardonable sin of wrapping up 6 minutes early. Is there a special prayer you say for forgiveness of that one? Amy Jaslow, are you with us?
I am here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Many thanks to everyone who helped pull these services together. It was an absolutely lovely service, and thank you, Matt, so much for organizing it all. I want to add happy anniversary wishes to Mimi and Jim. And Sarah, wonderful journey in Dublin, and I hope your studies go well. We look forward to hearing more about that in the future. Just a handful of announcements. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is a session with Rabbi Rachel about celebrating the holidays with children. Of course, this will be on Zoom. Everything we're doing now for the immediate future is on Zoom until you hear otherwise. Also, for those of you with kids, if you haven't registered yet for our Jewish Education for Kids, which is Lamud Adadat Shalom, please register your children for that. Everything is in social solidarity, so be sure to read social solidarity so you're up to date on everything, as well as any other announcements that come out as to the latest Zoom hybrid, whatever status that we're moving along with from week to week. It is a changing landscape. So thanks again to everyone who participated today, and Shabbat Shalom.
And everybody, please stand by. We're going to go to breakout rooms for a few minutes, and then we'll come back for Kiddush led by Paula. Please stand by.
But if you are the host, you have to do the breakout room.
Yeah. Okay, all of you who did not join a breakout room, I've asked you all to unmute. We can have our own breakout room here. Hi,
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Matt.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's always good to see you sitting in the sanctuary.
I got two photos. One of them is the sanctuary with people in it, and the other is, hold on, let me see if I can find it here. Here we go. So I can be with people or without people. I don't know how long the breakout rooms are supposed to run. There are a lot of little details to this task that fly past you.
It's true. It's true. That was one of the reasons why I just started to put the page numbers in, because that helps me too in the chat. So yeah, you guys did a great job.
Yeah, we did okay. Yeah. No, I feel dumb. I didn't identify why Mimi and Jim had the aliyah. But, you know, Rachel is cool, calm, and collected and does all that stuff. So I don't know when we're going back to real life. This is really a disappointment.
Yes, it's true. It's true. It is very true.
My wife, Wilma, is ordering more masks. And
yeah,
we have friends, good friends whom we've socialized with in their house. We're looking to have dinner with them, and we're going to end up dining outdoors.
Okay. And I want to say that you and your wife have a new grandchild?
Yeah, actually, he's 3.5. Yeah.
Okay. And so not so new.
He wears a mask in nursery school now.
Okay.
His nursery school sends out little photos and videos of what the kids do every day. It's like the surveillance state. And there's this whole little table. Outside, they don't wear masks. But there's this whole little table of kids, most of whom are wearing masks. Intermittently, one of them isn't. But apparently, his father took him to an ice cream parlor near their house. And he looks at this little girl next to him and says to her, "Where is your mask?"
Wow. One really kind of striking visual in that way for me is going to my nephew's high school graduation at Blair in early June and seeing these several hundred students all in robes of 2 colors, and all of them wearing a mask that said, you know, something like class of 2021.
Right.
And it looked so much like a uniform that everyone accepted. It was just a really strong visual.
There was a story, I think it was in the Houston Chronicle, about a topless bar in Houston where the performers were topless, but they wore masks. That to me
They
is
probably really appreciate the social distance there.
right. It was one of the defining ideas of this lockdown. No, and it looks like we're all going to be getting booster shots.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we're
true.
lucky.
And next time we won't be schlepping off to some town in rural Maryland that you've never heard of before you went there to get your shot.
Ah,
I ended up somewhere about 25 miles south of Andrews Air Force Base, in a place I'd never heard of before.
okay. I'm in DC, and Howard University did a great job. They did it kind of at one of their, I think, where they had medical students and pharmacy students. So it was really, really well run and really convenient.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna send out a message. I'm gonna send out a 5-minute warning to everybody. Broadcast message to all. That means we'll close in 5 minutes, and we will join together for Kiddush. Broadcast. I hope that worked. I didn't get a message, did you? Maybe it only works if you were in a room.
You might need to go into the breakout room. I see the message up here,
Oh, you do? Good. Okay.
but you might need to go into each breakout room. I don't know how it works.
No,
Okay.
it's, you don't have to do.
Okay, I
Uh,
did see that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the point where nobody remembers what breakout rooms are. Yeah. Now I got to keep track of when 5 minutes is up.
Right, it'll be like 11:40 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wanted to do something on the Haftarot because we don't do them very often anymore. Shortage of bar and bat mitzvahs and general time pressures.
Mhm.
I am a fan of this book. This is the Plout Haftarah commentary.
Okay.
It's an entire, let's see if I can,
Oh, it's a
it's
separate-
almost as big as the Pentateuch. It's a separate volume.
Okay.
And unlike other Pentateuchs, the Plout Pentateuch doesn't have, just has minimal Haftarah. It's got tiny footnotes and no commentary. And it's because he put it all in a separate book.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the reasons, and it's not Reconstructionist, it's Reform. I think that's one of the reasons that we have de-emphasized the Haftarot, because it's not in the Plout Pentateuch.
It's been so long since I've looked at that. I use a different Tanakh.
Eitz Chaim or something else?
No, it's hang on, let me get it. Show you. It's the JPS,
Yeah, right.
which we used in Yesudot Halimud. And it's not, it's organized by book. It's not organized the way Plout is, where they put the Haftarah and the Parsha together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've been using, no, I've got to get just the right distance. This is a parallel Chumash. I don't know if I can set it up so you can see it, but it's got one line of English and one line of Hebrew.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. That's
and,
nice.
and all it's got, which is good if you're trying to improve your Hebrew, and all it's got is Rashi. That's it.
It's a pretty good choice.
And the type is larger. It's the middle-aged Chumash,
Okay.
to the extent that I'm still middle-aged.
Do you know if anyone else is on this who wants to say anything? Shabbat Shalom.
I asked everybody to unmute, but nobody has. They may
Okay.
not actually be there.
Yes, that I understand. We're waiting for the Kiddush.
So the Zoom era has gotten better. There was nobody on today with a classic name, Mom's iPad. Mom's iPad is the most frequent participant.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna send out a, if I click close all rooms, I think that gives everybody a 60-second warning.
Sounds good.
Yeah, 59. Okay, here we go. All right.
And I will be quiet until Kiddush.
No, we can chat. We're the whole show. We're the only ones being recorded. Here come people. Carol, thanks so much for stepping in and doing the Haftarah and catching my error. Hang on, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Carol, you're muted.
I am not Carol.
You're Mim, absolutely. I'm sorry. I'm doing really well here.
Interchangeable.
This multitasking is just more than I can handle. Maybe it'd be better if it were later in the day.
You're doing fine, Matt.
You're doing fine, Matt. We're interchangeable anyway. So
I hate to say this, but Rachel's job is not threatened by me.
okay. Let's see if you're doing fine.
Hey, I'd like to share something with everybody before we
Please.
continue. And I shared it with my group. I got my third Moderna yesterday at 3 o'clock. And it's exactly 6 months since my second. And there, as Dr. Collins said, there's no, the 8 months is nothing. It's like it's just a number. But CVS will give you a booster even if you're not immunocompromised, just because you want one. They have a lot of drug available. So I signed up with CVS.com and I got my third shot yesterday at 3 o'clock. I had 0 side effects from my first 2. And my third one, I think I might have a little bit of side effect, which makes me happy. I have an itchy nose and I feel malaise. I feel a little bit down.
Jeff, let's get serious here. Have you become magnetic or lost the ability to become pregnant?
That not only am I magnetic and everything's sticking to me, but my DNA is all over America.
But what is this, CVS.com, you said?
CVS.com.
Okay.
You put in your zip code, you fill out the questionnaire. You can be totally honest, I was. And it asks you what your zip code is and what shot you want. And then it makes you go through a whole series, and you have to have your insurance card in hand because they want you to give the numbers. And it was simple.
Does it have to be Moderna?
No, they have Pfizer and Moderna. Some do Pfizer, some do Moderna. You put down the dose, you put down what you want, and they'll send you to the closest CVS to your zip code that has Moderna or Pfizer or J&J or whatever you took.
Jeff, did you get the one that had the microchip in it?
Yes. Yeah, I'm all over the world. Everybody's writing to me right now and saying, "Oh my God, your DNA is strange."
Sounds good.
So just anybody, if you're worried, I'm getting on an airplane on September 9th. And I really felt it would be great. And we know from the data that Tony Fauci showed that regardless of where your titer is right now, you get a 10-fold increase in your titer from the third shot within a week of the shot.
Huh.
And is it preferred or not preferred to mix it up? If you had Pfizer to do Moderna, you had Moderna to do Pfizer?
Well, there's a lot of data in Europe, we don't have it in the United States, that show mixing gives you higher titers. But I decided I wasn't going to mix for this one. I'll probably mix for next year's booster. But I decided I'd go with this one, and I'm sort of glad I did, because the little bit of side effects I'm having, I would have thought it was the Pfizer that did it. So I have my own control. So yes, mixing is good. It does increase your immune response, but it's not necessary.
Did you get Pfizer or Moderna?
Moderna.
Okay. Paula, will you lead us in Kiddush?
If you want to follow along, it's on page 465. ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. שרי חבריי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you to everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you very much.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Good
shalom.
Great,
job.
Matt, great.
Shabbat
Yeah, good
shalom,
job,
everybody.
Matt.
Shalom.
Thank you, Paula. We're so proud of you.
Thank you for coming,
Bam.
Yeah,
Francie.
thank you,
Right on,
Paula. It's
Paula.
beautiful.
Thank you, Paula. Beautiful.
Thank you,
Have a
Anna.
nice
Paul, thank you,
weekend.
Rabbi George.
And Cantor Zuzman was great. Everybody, and you,
Yeah, Michael
Matt.
had to leave early, but he's always wonderful.
Yeah.
He's got two small kids at home, so
Yeah.
he said he could do this if we were on Zoom, but not if we were in person. Other people said they'd only do it in person, so it's it's a new world.
Well, it was a very nice service. Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Good to see you, Vicky. Good to
Ask
see
me
you
to do it
too.
again in 3 or 4 years.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Rabbi George. You were wonderful, as usual.
Thank you.
Hello.
I'm all over myself.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I'm closing up shop. Bye, everybody.